The morning started like any other aboard Harmony Station. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho adjusted his formal robes one last time before entering Conference Room Alpha. The room gleamed under bright lights, its long table surrounded by chairs designed for different alien body types. Today would make history. Today humans would finally join the Galactic Coalition. 6 species had traveled across the stars to meet them. The Viridians stood tallest, their blue skin shimmering like water. The Keith delegation huddled together, their fur-covered bodies twitching with nervous energy. Representatives from 4 other worlds completed the circle, each hoping to welcome Earth into their ancient alliance. Lieutenant Park Ji-woo watched from her position by the door. As head of security, she had studied every protocol, every custom, every possible threat. Her weapon remained holstered, more for ceremony than actual need. What danger could there be in a peace meeting? Ambassador Kim began the formal presentations. Everything proceeded perfectly. The Viridian speaker, Velnash, clicked his long fingers, in approval as Kim outlined Earth's technological offerings. The Keth leader, furry and small, chittered with excitement about trade possibilities. Even the normally silent Zephyrians nodded their massive heads in agreement. Then came the moment Kim had practiced for months. The ceremonial exchange of gifts. Each species would present something meaningful to seal their friendship. The Viridians offered a crystal that sang with harmonic frequencies. The Keth brought seeds from their homeworld's sacred gardens. The Zephyrians presented a piece of metal forged in their solar forges. Kim reached into his ceremonial box and withdrew Earth's gift. The blade gleamed under the lights, its surface etched with symbols representing human unity. It was beautiful, ancient, and completely misunderstood. The change happened instantly. Velnash's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed with fury. His translator device crackled as he spoke words that made no sense to human ears. The other delegates stepped back, their various forms of communication filling the room with clicks, chirps, and growls. Park Ji-woo moved forward, her hand instinctively moving toward her weapon. Something was wrong, but she could not understand. What? The translator struggled to keep up with the rapid alien speech. Death challenge, the device finally managed. Ancient ritual. Combat to the death. Kim raised his hands, trying to explain. No, this is a gift of peace, a symbol of protection. But his words came too late. Velnash had already drawn his own blade, a curved weapon that hummed with energy. The Keth delegate began screaming, in their high-pitched language. The Zephyrians backed toward the walls, their massive forms shaking with what looked like fear. The room erupted into chaos. Velnash lunged forward, his blade aimed at Kim's chest. The ambassador stumbled backwards, still holding the ceremonial knife. Other delegates pulled out weapons Park had never seen before. The peaceful meeting transformed into a battlefield in seconds. Park drew her weapon and fired a warning shot at the ceiling. The sound echoed through the room, but it only made things worse. The aliens saw the weapon and assumed humans were launching an attack. More blades appeared, energy weapons charged with deadly light. "Stop," Kim shouted, but his voice was lost in the noise. Park watched in horror as Velnash's blade found its target. Kim crumpled to the floor, his ceremonial robe spreading around him like spilled paint. The Viridian leader turned toward her, his eyes blazing with rage. She had no choice. Her training took over. The weapon bucked in her hands as she fired. Velnash fell. Then the Keth delegate raised something that looked like a small cannon. She fired again, and again. The room fell silent except for the hum of the station's air recyclers. Bodies lay scattered across the polished floor. Ambassador Kim's lifeless eyes stared at the ceiling, his ceremonial robe stained with blood, both human and alien. 6 delegates from different worlds lay dead around him. Park's weapon still smoked in her hands. She stood frozen in the doorway, unable to believe what had happened. The cultural briefing had never mentioned that presenting a blade was considered a death challenge among the Viridians. The misunderstanding had escalated in seconds, turning a peace summit into a massacre. Emergency alarms began wailing throughout the station. Red lights flashed, bathing the terrible scene in crimson. Park's communication device crackled to life with panicked voices. The alien ships in orbit were powering up their weapons. Coalition forces throughout the sector were moving toward Earth's borders. The news would reach Earth in hours. The galaxy's most powerful alliance now saw humanity as either completely incompetent or deliberately hostile. Either way, they would respond with force. The coalition had survived for thousands of years by eliminating threats quickly and completely. Park finally found her voice and called for medical teams, though she knew it was too late. Nothing could fix this disaster. Nothing could bring back the dead or undo the misunderstanding that had destroyed everything. Humanity had 72 hours before the galaxy declared them a hostile species. The countdown had already begun. The elevator descended 20 floors beneath Earth Command headquarters. Colonel Lee Min-ho watched the numbers flash by, each level taking him deeper into the planet's most secure facility. His boots echoed against the metal floor as the doors opened into a corridor lined with blast-proof walls. General Han So-young waited for him in Briefing Room 7. The small chamber contained only a table, 2 chairs, and a holographic projector that cast everything in cold blue light. No windows. No decorations. Just the kind of room where impossible decisions were made. "Sit down, Colonel," Han said. Her weathered face showed the strain of the past 48 hours. Dark circles under her eyes told the story of sleepless nights spent trying to prevent a war. Min-ho took the chair across from her. He had served under Han for 3 years but had never seen her look so tired. The disaster at Harmony Station had shaken everyone in Earth's military command. The holographic display activated, showing star maps and tactical information. Coalition fleets appeared as red dots moving toward Earth's outer colonies. The numbers were not encouraging. Humanity's navy was outnumbered 50 to 1. "The Coalition Emergency Council meets in 60 hours, Han explained. "They will vote on whether to declare humanity a hostile species. If that happens, they will attack our colonies first, then Earth itself." Min-ho studied the display. He had fought in 3 wars but never against an entire galaxy. "What are our options?" "We have tried diplomatic channels. The Coalition refuses to speak with any official Earth representative. They believe we either planned the massacre or are too dangerous to trust." Han's fingers drummed against the table. "That leaves us with one choice." The display changed, showing the layout of Kepler Station, a massive orbital complex at the edge of Coalition space. Red markers indicated security checkpoints, weapon emplacements, and guard rotations. "The Emergency Council will meet here." Han continued. "Representatives from 47 species will decide our fate. You need to get inside and change their minds." Min-ho looked at the security measures surrounding the station. Getting inside would be nearly impossible. Surviving long enough to accomplish anything would be even harder. "What resources do I have?" "Minimal. We cannot risk official support. If you are caught, Earth will deny any knowledge of your mission." Han leaned forward. "You understand, this is a one-way assignment." The words hung in the air between them. Min-ho had accepted suicide missions before, but never one where failure meant the destruction of his entire species. He nodded slowly. "Why me?" he asked. Han activated another section of the display. Min-ho's service record appeared, highlighting his unusual combination of skills: special operations training from his early career, advanced studies in alien psychology and culture, combat experience against non-human enemies. Most importantly, his psychological profile showed someone capable of thinking beyond normal human limitations. "You spent 2 years studying coalition species," Han explained. "You understand how they think better than anyone else in our military. You also have the tactical skills to survive in hostile territory." Min-ho read through his mission parameters. "Infiltrate the station. Identify key decision makers. Find a way to prevent the vote for war. Use any means necessary." The last phrase carried weight. Earth was giving him permission to do whatever it took. "There is something else," Han added, quietly. "Intelligence suggests the Coalition's fear of humanity goes deeper than the massacre. They see similarities between us and an extinct species called the hegemony. Apparently the hegemony once enslaved half the galaxy before they were destroyed." This new information changed everything. The Coalition was not just angry about the deaths at Harmony Station. They were terrified that humanity might become the next galactic threat. Fear made people do desperate things. It also made them harder to reason with. "How do I get to Kepler Station?" Minho asked. "The transport ship. Silent running will drop you at the edge of Coalition space in 18 hours. After that, you are on your own. No backup, no extraction plan, no official support." Minho stood and saluted. "Understood, General." Han returned the salute, then did something unexpected. She extended her hand for a shake. "The fate of our species rests in your hands, Colonel. I wish we had other options." He shook her hand, feeling the weight of 8 billion lives settling on his shoulders. "I will not let Earth down. I know you will not." Han's expression softened slightly. "Your transport leaves from Bay 7. You have 1 hour to prepare." Minho headed for the door, then paused. "General, what happens if I succeed but cannot return? Then you will have saved humanity. That is enough." The elevator ride back to the surface felt longer than the descent. Minho used the time to think through what lay ahead. He would be traveling alone into enemy territory with no support and minimal equipment. His chances of survival were almost zero. His chances of success were even lower. But sometimes impossible missions were the only ones worth attempting. Earth had tried diplomacy and failed. Now they were sending one man to accomplish what their entire diplomatic corps could not. Minho stepped out of the elevator and walked toward Bay 7. Behind him, the bunker continued its frantic activity as Earth's leaders prepared for the worst. Ahead lay the unknown dangers of Coalition space and a mission that would either save his species or die trying. The freighter, Lucky Strike, approached Kepler Station with its cargo holds full of fake mining equipment. Minho sat in the captain's chair, wearing the face of a dead man. The biosurgery had taken 12 hours, reshaping his features to match Captain Torres, a smuggler who had died in a bar fight 3 months ago. The Coalition authorities had not updated their records yet. "Kepler Station Control, this is Captain Torres requesting docking permission." Minho spoke into the communication device. His voice had been altered too, matching recordings from Torres's previous visits. "Permission granted, Captain. Proceed to Bay 12. Standard inspection will follow." Minho guided the ship through the docking procedure, his hands steady despite the danger. One mistake, one suspicious detail, and Coalition security would discover Earth's infiltration attempt. The station grew larger as they approached, its massive structure housing millions of beings from across the galaxy. The inspection went smoothly. The Coalition officer, a blue-skinned Viridian, scanned Minho's forged documents without suspicion. The biometric scanners accepted Torres's stolen identity data. Within an hour, Minho walked free through Kepler Station's corridors. The station amazed him with its size and diversity. Creatures he had only seen in intelligence reports moved past him in the wide hallways. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others slithered, crawled, or floated using technology he did not understand. The air carried dozens of different scents, from alien foods, perfumes, and body odors. Minho made his way to level 15. Deep in the station's commercial district. According to his intelligence, a human smuggler named Yoon Da-hee operated from the lower levels. She had been stranded in Coalition space for 3 years after her ship broke down. Instead of trying to return to Earth, she had learned to survive among the aliens. He found her in a crowded marketplace selling exotic goods to alien customers. Da-hee looked different from her Earth records. Her hair was dyed blue-green to match Viridian fashion. Strange tattoos covered her arms in patterns that meant something to alien cultures. She spoke to a customer in clicking sounds that must have been Keth language. Minho waited until she was alone, then approached her stall. "Captain Torres," he introduced himself. "I heard you help humans who need special services." Da-hee studied him carefully. Her eyes were sharp, suspicious. Living among aliens for 3 years had taught her to be cautious. "Depends on what kind of services you need." "Information." "About the emergency council meeting." Her expression hardened. "You are either very brave or very stupid to ask about that." The Coalition is not happy with humanity right now. Minho leaned closer. I know. That is why I need your help. Dahi glanced around the marketplace, then gestured for him to follow. She led him through narrow passages between stalls, past alien vendors selling things he could not identify. They climbed down maintenance ladders to level 20, where the station's machinery hummed behind thick walls. This is safe to talk, she said, stopping in an empty corridor. The aliens do not come here often, too noisy for their sensitive hearing. Minho dropped the pretense. My name is Lee Minho. I am here on behalf of Earth Command. Dahi laughed bitterly. Earth Command? They finally decided to care about the humans trapped out here? 3 years too late for me. I need to understand what happened at Harmony Station. The real story, not the official reports. The real story is that your diplomats were idiots, Dahi said bluntly. They never bothered to learn anything about alien cultures. Presenting a blade to a Viridian is like challenging them to single combat. Everyone in Coalition space knows that. Minho felt anger rising in his chest, but pushed it down. Getting emotional would not help anyone. Why did they not tell us? Because they thought humans were just another primitive species trying to join their club. They expected you to know the basic rules. Dahi shook her head. But that is not the real problem. What do you mean? Dahi looked around nervously, then spoke in a whisper. They are not just angry about the deaths, they are terrified. Something about humans reminds them of the old hegemony. Minho had heard that name in his briefing, but few details. Tell me about the hegemony. A species that conquered half the galaxy 2,000 years ago. They enslaved entire worlds, wiped out civilizations that resisted. The Coalition only survived by banding together and fighting a war that lasted centuries. Dahi's voice grew quieter. The Coalition finally destroyed them, but they never forgot the lessons. What does that have to do with humans? Think about it. Humans spread across space faster than any species in Coalition history. You build weapons first, ask questions later. You fight wars against each other constantly but unite quickly against outside threats. Dahi stared at him intently. To them, you look exactly like the early hegemony. The pieces clicked together in Minho's mind. Earth's diplomats had completely misunderstood the situation. This was not about territory, trade rights, or even the massacre at Harmony Station. The Coalition saw humanity as an existential threat. They believed humans would eventually become conquerors, just like the hegemony. They planned to destroy us before we become strong enough to threaten them, Minho realized. Now you understand. Dahi nodded. This is not about justice or revenge. This is about survival. They think they are preventing the next galactic war. Minho leaned against the corridor wall, processing this new information. His mission had just become much more complicated. He needed to convince 47 species that humanity was not their ancient enemy reborn. The Coalition Council chambers stretched out like a vast amphitheater carved from black stone. 47 different species sat in curved rows, their various forms creating a bizarre gallery of galactic life. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime, converting dozens of languages into comprehensible speech. Minho crouched in the maintenance shaft above the chamber, listening to the proceedings through a small opening. For 2 days, he had watched the debates from his hiding place. The vote was scheduled for today. Already 31 species had declared their intention to classify humanity as hostile. Below him, Councillor Veltar of the Viridian Assembly stood at the central podium. His blue skin shimmered under the chamber's lights as he spoke in measured tones. The evidence is clear, Veltar announced. The human species displays all the warning signs we learned to recognize after the hegemony wars. Rapid expansion, aggressive tendencies, and now unprovoked violence against our diplomatic mission. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates. A Keth representative chittered something that the translators rendered as, "We cannot wait for them to grow stronger." Minho knew this was his moment. Dahi had helped him access the station's maintenance systems 3 days ago. Since then, he had studied every delegate, learned their names, their histories, their fears. Now he would bet everything on a desperate gamble. He kicked open the maintenance grate and dropped into the chamber. The reaction was instant. Security forces from a dozen species raised their weapons, energy beams charging with deadly light. Shouts erupted in multiple languages as delegates scrambled for cover. The chamber's emergency alarms began wailing. Minho landed in a crouch at the center of the floor, his hands raised high and empty. "Do not shoot," he called out in perfect Galactic standard. "I am unarmed." The security captain, a massive Zephyrian with arms like tree trunks, kept his weapon trained on Minho's chest. "Identify yourself, human." "I am Colonel Lee Minho of Earth Defense Command," he announced, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. The translation devices worked frantically to convert his words into dozens of alien languages. Counselor Veltar leaned forward from his seat, his large eyes fixed on the unexpected intruder. "How did you get aboard this station? This chamber is restricted to Coalition members only." "I came the same way any desperate person would," Minho replied. "Through the back door, quietly, hoping to be heard before being killed." The honesty of his answer seemed to surprise the delegates. A few lowered their defensive postures slightly. Others whispered among themselves in their native tongues. "You have violated Coalition space and breached our security," declared Counselor Thixara, an insect-like being whose translator gave her voice a metallic tone. "This proves human aggression and disregard for our laws." Minho turned to face her, directly. "No, Counselor. This proves human desperation. My people face extinction because of a misunderstanding. I came not to plead for mercy, but to offer truth." "Truth?" Veltar's voice carried skepticism. "Your species murdered our diplomatic mission. What truth can justify such violence?" For the next hour, Minho spoke without stopping. He laid bare humanity's entire history, holding nothing back. He described the wars that had scarred Earth, the genocides that shamed his species, the dark chapters that every human wished they could forget. But he also spoke of liberation, of humans who had died fighting slavery, of soldiers who had sacrificed themselves to protect civilians, of the choice made again and again throughout history, to build rather than destroy when given the opportunity. "We are not the hegemony," Minho said finally. "Yes, we expand quickly because we must. Our homeworld is small and crowded. Yes, we fight each other because we are young and stupid and passionate. But we also unite against common threats because we understand that survival sometimes requires cooperation." He gestured to the assembled delegates. "You fear us because we remind you of your ancient enemy. But consider this. The hegemony conquered through deception and overwhelming force. They never sent a single representative to face their enemies alone and unarmed." Counselor Veltar studied him carefully. "You came alone to face 47 species. This shows either great courage or great foolishness." Minho met his gaze steadily. "Both," he admitted, "but mostly faith in what we could become together." The chamber fell silent except for the hum of translation devices. Minho could feel the weight of thousands of eyes upon him. Representatives of civilizations that had survived for millennia by making careful decisions about threats and allies. "The human speaks with conviction," observed Counselor Zelmoth, whose species communicated through color changes in their skin. "But words are easy. Actions reveal truth." "Then judge us by this action," Minho replied. "Earth could have sent warships to demand your attention. We could have threatened retaliation if you declared us hostile. Instead, we sent one person to stand before you and ask for understanding." A young delegate from the Tau Collective, a species that had only recently joined the Coalition, spoke up. "The humans' presence here proves they are capable of subtlety and planning. These are not the characteristics of mindless conquerors." Other delegates began murmuring among themselves. Minho could sense a shift in the chamber's mood, like wind changing direction before a storm. His gambit was working, but the outcome remained uncertain. The security forces still held their weapons ready, waiting for orders. Minho remained motionless in the center of the floor, his life hanging in the balance along with the fate of his entire species. The observation deck of New Harmony Station, offered the best view in Coalition space. Captain Cho Sung-min pressed his face against the massive window, watching 12 ships prepare for departure. Each vessel gleamed under the artificial lights, their hulls painted with symbols from different worlds. "Hard to believe," he murmured, to the man standing beside him. "6 months ago, those same species wanted to destroy us." Minho adjusted his new uniform, the fabric still feeling strange after months of wearing it. The Coalition insignia on his chest caught the light, 3 interlocking circles representing cooperation between species. Beside it hung a smaller badge that marked him as Earth's permanent ambassador, a title that had never existed before. "Look, at Bridge 7, Minho pointed to one of the ships. Through its transparent sections, they could see the crew preparing for departure. A human captain sat beside a Viridian navigator. A Keth engineer worked next to a Zephyrian weapons officer. Different species, different worlds, all working toward the same goal. Sungmin shook his head in amazement. "My grandfather fought in the Third Colonial War. He would never believe humans and aliens could work together like this." The joint expedition had been Minho's idea, proposed during the long negotiations that followed his dramatic appearance before the Coalition Council. Instead of simply avoiding conflict, why not actively pursue cooperation? The unexplored regions beyond the galactic rim offered opportunities for discovery that no single species could achieve alone. "Captain Park sends her regards," Sungmin said, handing Minho a personal message pad. "She wanted you to know the memorial service for Ambassador Kim was beautiful. His family is proud of what you accomplished." Minho read the message quietly. Park Ji-woo had been transferred to Earth's new Alien Relations Division, where she trained security personnel in proper cultural protocols. The massacre at the original Harmony Station would never be forgotten, but it had led to changes that might prevent similar tragedies. "She also mentions that General Han is retiring next month," Sungmin continued. "They are offering her a position as director of the new cultural exchange program." "Good," Minho said. "She understands the importance of getting these things right." A soft chime echoed through the observation deck. The departure announcement came in multiple languages, translation devices ensuring everyone could understand. The joint expedition would explore 17 star systems over the next 2 years, searching for habitable worlds and new resources. Expedition. "Command to all ships," the voice crackled over the communication system. "Final systems check complete. Prepare for jump sequence." Minho watched the ship's engines begin to glow. Each vessel used different technology: human fusion drives, Viridian quantum cores, Keth solar collectors. The diversity that had once seemed like weakness now provided strength through variety. "Any regrets?" Sungmin asked suddenly. The question caught Minho by surprise. He thought about Earth, now millions of kilometers away. His old life in the military. The simple certainty of knowing who was friend and who was enemy. All of that was gone, replaced by something more complex, but also more hopeful. "I was sent to fix a disaster permanently," Minho replied, touching the alien insignia on his chest. "Mission accomplished." The first ship activated its jump drive. Space bent around the vessel, reality twisting in ways that human eyes could barely comprehend. One moment the ship was there, the next it had vanished into the space between dimensions. The other ships followed in sequence, each departure marked by a brief flash of distorted light. Sungmin pulled out his own message pad and began recording. "Personal log, Captain Cho Sung-min. Today marks 6 months since the Coalition crisis ended. The joint expedition fleet has departed successfully with crews from 8 different species. Ambassador Lee Minho reports that trade negotiations with the Tau Collective are proceeding well, and 3 new species have requested membership in the expanded coalition." Minho listened with half his attention while watching the last ships disappear. The observation deck grew quiet as the fleet vanished, leaving only distant stars and empty space. But the emptiness felt different now, full of possibility rather than threat. "The traditional diplomatic corps is still banned from coalition space." Sungmin continued his recording. "Earth Command considers this both punishment for past failures and recognition that unconventional methods sometimes succeed where protocol fails. Ambassador Lee has been granted permanent status, with authority to negotiate on behalf of humanity without prior approval from Earth. A group of alien visitors entered the observation deck, their tour guide explaining the station's history in multiple languages. Minho recognized several Viridian students and a family of Keth civilians. 6 months ago, they would have fled at the sight of humans. Now they nodded politely and continued their sightseeing. The memorial garden on level 5 is complete, Sung-min noted. Representatives from all species involved in the original incident contributed to its design. It serves as a reminder of how quickly misunderstanding can lead to tragedy, and how important clear communication has become. Minho checked his schedule. 3 meetings this afternoon, one with Zephyrian trade representatives, another with human colonists requesting permission to settle in coalition space, and a final session with the Cultural Exchange Committee. The work never stopped, but it was work that mattered. The stars outside the window looked the same as always, but everything else had changed. Earth and the coalition had found an uneasy peace, built on the foundation one man had laid by betting everything on humanity's potential for growth. Behind them, New Harmony Station continued its quiet work of bringing different worlds together, one conversation at a time.